Hi everybody, we're going to look at reading today and we're going to be diving into the vocabulary uh, reading topic. And in vocabulary, so that's the words that we're using, we look at explaining the meanings of our words given a context. Now what does that mean? That pretty much just means we are sort of trying to work out the meaning of words that we don't know. And to do that, we use what's called a context. Now, the context is the situation, almost the sentence, the paragraph. It's how it's being used, because we know that certain words can have a different meaning depending on how we use them. For example, last week we used the word dance in different contexts. We used the words dance as in a noun, as in to go to a dance, and we used it as in a different context, in the context of a verb, so to go out and dance. So we can look at the rest of the sentence just to sort of get a rough idea, even if we don't absolutely know what a word means. So sometimes the questions might involve ticking the box of the meaning of certain words. It might ask you to explain the meaning of certain words. And to do that, you can use what's in the text and use some of your knowledge. Also, using your knowledge of root words and suffixes and prefixes can really help us as well. It might ask you to find and copy certain words that have the same meaning as. It might ask you to look for synonyms or antonyms. Now, we know that synonyms are words with a very similar meaning, quite close meaning, whereas an antonym is a word that has an opposite meaning. And we're also, and it plays particular focus on our word classes. So we're going to start off with a little warm-up, and this is a game you may have played. I know I used to play it around Christmas time, back when we were allowed people round. And it's a game called Taboo, and what you need to do is you need to guess the word or guess whatever I am explaining. But in this box, I have a picture and the answer, but in this box, I have a list of words that I'm not allowed to say. So there's some closely meaning words, probably commonly associated words, but I'm not allowed to say them in my description. Can you guess what I am describing? So this is a character that lives under the sea. It's a cartoon character, and he has a friend, and his friend is pink and is a starfish. He also has a friend that is a squirrel that has a aquanaut deep sea diver suit on. Can you guess who that is? And for an extra clue, he also has sort of like not an enemy, but almost like a friend that's really grumpy, who is an octopus, I think. Who is it? So let's have a look at who this is. It was SpongeBob. Well done if you guessed that. So the words that I wasn't allowed to use were these. I wasn't allowed to use SpongeBob, I wasn't allowed to use sponge, jellyfish, mimic laugh, and I took that to mean any sort of laugh, because he has a very unique laugh, and pineapple. Now, you might want to use that on some of your family. If you have a Zoom or something, you might want to play that as a game. We can have another go, see if we can get what this is. So, this item, this is not a character, and it is something that you eat. It's small. It's quite hard because I've got some really important words I'm not allowed to say. Okay, it's something that's quite sweet. It's quite small. It has a stone in it, and generally when you see it, there's two of them together, and they're held together by some sort of like green, it's not a stem, but it's like a stem. You might get them in packs called punnets, and generally what you would do, you would eat the flesh around the food item and you would spit out the stone. They come in the form of glacier, and I don't know any other forms. I mean, you can eat them just as the food item. Can you guess it? I found this very tricky. So the item was a cherry. Although I said you get them in twos, but this one here is in threes. And I wasn't allowed to say fruit, I wasn't allowed to say red, and I wasn't allowed to say stalk. Now I use things like stone. I talked about flesh instead of the fruit. A small food item instead of saying fruit. I could maybe have chosen some synonyms for red. Maybe said it's like a scarlet colour or something along those lines. Okay, so well done if you managed to guess that. Feel free to play that with your friends and your families. It's a good game. As I say, you can buy the game and it has a lot more cards and things in it. But this week we're going to start by playing that game. So I think it's a good game to get used to our vocabulary and our explaining skills. So let's have a go at this first little activity, and it's going to lead up to a more of a main activity, and then we're going to look at some questions because we are looking at vocabulary. So what I've got here is I've got a passage of text, and in it I have 2 blanks. What I want you to do is to fill in the blanks. What could that word be? Think about the skills you might use. So the way I would do it is I would read the whole thing, and can I get a rough idea of what's happening? So it says, one cold day near the end of the year, Toby had been something. A long time for a job, trotting up and down in his usual place before the church and trying hard to keep himself warm when the bells 12 o'clock, which made Toby think of dinner. Now, so we've got something here. I'm going to assume it's a horse. Can you spot the words that makes me assume it's a horse? I'm not saying it definitely is. There was this word trotted. That's normally that sort of quick walk that horses do. So I could be wrong. It could just be sort of an analogy, just playing the two together. But it would seem it was a horse. So Toby had something a long time. What could that be? What would you do for a long time? He could be playing for a long time. He could have been running for a long time. It's probably going to be a verb. But it's for a job. What would you do for a job for a long time? It could be hoping. It could be waiting. So let's try that. On a cold day near the end of the year, Toby had been hoping a long time for a job. Doesn't quite make sense. Because if it was hoping, it'd say for. One cold day near the end of the year, Toby had been waiting a long time for a job. Does that make sense? That does make sense. And in the context of this, that would make sense. Now let's keep going, see if we can get our last one. Trotting up and down his usual place before the church, and trying hard to keep himself warm when the bells something 12 o'clock. What would a bell do? A bell might ring, a bell might chime, a bell might crash. Would they make sense? When the bells chimed 12 o'clock. When the bells rung 12 o'clock. When the bells chimed 12 o'clock. All of those would have fit. See, I'm not going to tell you what they were. It's just, can you read it with your word in there, and does it make sense? Well done if you were able to read it or fit in some words and then they made sense. So we've got another go here, and I might tell you what the actual ones are on this one, but as long as it makes sense and it has a similar meaning and we keep that meaning, it doesn't really matter too much. So Jenny Wren suddenly became sober. Peter, she said very earnestly, take my advice and go to school to old Mother Nature for a while. What I have you is true, every word of it. You have a cousin down in the sunny south who half his time in the water. What is more, I suspect that you and Jumper have other relatives of whom you've never heard. Such ignorance would be laughable if it were not to be pitied. This is what comes for never having. Go to school, Old Mother Nature. To Old Mother Nature for a while, Peter. It will pay you. With this, Jenny Wren away to hunt for Mr. Wren, that they might decide where to make their home for the summer. Okay. That was quite hard to read with some missing words, but let's see if we can fill in some of these gaps. So, I'm going to use the main skill that we're probably going to use. I read the sentences around it. I normally go a line above and a line below, but that's not an exact rule. You may have to go 2 lines before, or you may have to go 2 sentences before. That might not. So it's up to you, but you just want to get a general gist of what is happening. What is that sentence trying to tell you? So, what we've got here, we've got right at the beginning there, they're talking, and she's telling him to go to school at Old Mother Nature for a while. What I have something new is true. What would you say? That what I have just... It's going to be about them talking. What has she just done? She's just told him something. What I have just told you is true. Does that make sense? What I have told you is true. What I have said to you is true. That would work, but that would be 2 words. What I have said to you. But that would work just as well. What I have explained to you is true. Again, explained to is good, but we've only got 1 word here. So it's probably going to be told, and it is told. What I've told you is true, every word of it. You have a cousin down in the south who something half his time in water. Think about when a parent or an adult might have spoken to you, oh, you something all of your time playing games. You need to something more time learning or reading. What might we do that? What might we say? The word here is spends. You have a cousin down in the who spends half of his time in the water. Can you think of any others that might be? That might fit. I can't, but you might be able to. Who spends half his time in the water. Okay, let's go down to our next one. This is what comes of never having something. Never having what? Listened? That would fit. But let's read that sentence before. Let's go back. I suspect that you and Jumper have other relatives who you've never heard. Such ignorance would be laughable. Now, ignorance is when you don't know something and you've not tried to find out. Ignorance would be laughable if it were not to be pitied. This is what comes with never having. So remember, let's use our context of Peter Rabbit. What do we know about him? We know that he is a rabbit and he didn't even know what family he had. Why didn't he? Because he said he'd spent all of his time in around, I forget what the brook is called. So he didn't know about this family that lived far away. Because remember, this is what we've read in previous weeks. So what would you do? It might be something that he's never travelled. Because you've stayed in the same place, you've never explored. Now, the word here is travelled, but I feel like explored would work here as well. This is what comes of never having explored or never having travelled. Because if he didn't travel, then he wouldn't know. Go to school to Old Mother Nature for a while, Peter. It will pay you. With this, Jenny Wren something away to hunt for Mr. Wren. What do we know about Jenny Wren? She is a bird. How might the bird travel? Flew. Yeah, Jenny Wren flew away. If she was the rabbit, if we were talking about Peter, we might say hopped. But in this case, it is flew. So well done. So, well done if you got those. What I want you to do, this text is important because in a minute we're going to have some questions on it. But first, what we need to do is we need to find out what these blanks are. So what I want you to do is just read this and then maybe make a little bank of some words that might fit in there. So I'm going to pause it and then... Oh, sorry, I want you to pause it and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, so hopefully you've read it. And we've got here we got Miss Higgins was posing the question to both her class and Mr. J's as both groups of children something into one hot classroom together. So what we've got two classes all going into one class. Remember when we've had wet plays and things, when we've had to get you in and we might have had to get into one class. How did that feel? We were really squashed, wasn't it? So you might say, Mr. J, as both groups of children squashed into one hot classroom. That would fit. What else could we have? We could have crowded. That's what we call lots of people, a crowd, and we can crowd into one. And actually, in this case, it is crowded. So let's look at that last one. The next one. Mr. J was sporting a navy cap over a teal all-in-one something with a gadget belt. An all-in-one what? What could that be? What would Mr. J, his superhero, what do superheroes wear? So he's got a cape, and what else is he's got? His superhero suit. So he's got his all-in-one suit, because that's what superheroes wear. Well done, if you got that. Now we've got our third one here. So we've got, perhaps you might think of what good your something could be used for instead of spying and scaring people. So remember, what does superheroes have? They have, what do they use? They use their superpowers or their powers. So well done if you got that. So perhaps you might think of what good your powers could be used for. Well done. And Freya tapped her left shoulder. Instinctively, her head something to the left. So, remember, if someone snaps you on the shoulder and you're a bit surprised, how might that feel? How might you move really quickly? So, what might we call that an action where we really quickly turn around? You might snap, you might have snapped around, you might have twisted round, you might have flinched round. So we're talking about a really quick movement, and in this case it is snap, so well done if you got that. And finally, I'd know it was you even if I couldn't something. So think about the context of what they're talking about. They're talking of being invisible. So she's saying, even if you're invisible, I would still know it's you. So if you're invisible, you can't be seen. So you can be annoying sometimes. I'd know it was you even if I couldn't see you. Well done if you got that. Read the text, get to know the text, because we have some questions here. Now, I've left these open for all chilies because I feel like you should all be able to spot some of these words. We've done a lot of work already today, well done. But we've got here, Miss Higgins was posing the question. Which of these words is closest in meaning to the phrase posing in this question? So posing can mean lots of things. So posing could be, you might be described as a poser. So posing might be to pull a position for a photo. But in this context, that doesn't work. So what is she doing with the question? Is she telling the question? Is she asking the question? Is she correcting the question? Is she moving the question? Find and copy a word from the second paragraph that means the same as interest. Which word means the same as interest? Instinctively, her head snapped to the left. What do you think instinctively means? Now think about that. Break that instinctively down. We've got instinctively, then we take off the ly, we get instinctive. We take off the if, and we got instinct. Think about what an instinct is and what you might describe as having instincts. Benji is a mysterious streak that bordered on irritating. Choose the best description of Benji. So how would you describe Benji? Is he caring yet rude, cheeky yet annoying, clever yet funny, naughty yet lovable? Pause the video, answer the questions. So let's go through. Mrs. Higgins was posing the question. What does she do? I pose questions all of the time. What is she doing? She is, of course, asking a question. Find and copy a word from the second paragraph which means the same as interest. So, think about what interest is. When you're interested in something, you have a lot of attention on it. And if you show a great interest in something, you show great enthusiasm. It was a topic that had sparked great enthusiasm, or great interest. So it is enthusiasm. Well done. Excuse me. Instinctively, her head snapped to the left. What do you think instinctively means? So if we take off the li, call it instinctive, and then we take off the iv, instinct. Now, instinct is something that we have, is something that animal has. It's almost that ability to do something without thinking. So it's almost like that natural feeling. You just do something. Think about how when you fall over, so if you're walking along and you trip, you instinctively put your hands out in front of you. You don't go through a logical thought process here. You don't go think, oh, actually, I'm falling, I'm about to hit the ground, I'm going to put my hands up. No, use your instincts. So when you act without thinking. Sometimes when we're angry, we can act instinctively. You might act and say something or do something without thinking. And that is our instincts. It's your protection instincts. It's the way you protect yourself. When you're having an argument, you might push somebody instinctively and then actually realise, whoops, I definitely shouldn't have done that. That wasn't on. Now, they were your instincts taking over. And as we grow up and we start to get older, we learn to control our instincts a little bit more. But our instincts are there, in essence, to protect us. So instinctively, her head snapped to the left. What does this tell us about what she is doing? She's done it really quick and without thinking. So instinctively means quick without thinking. Benji has a mischievous streak that bordered on irritating. What do we think? Is he caring yet rude, cheeky yet annoying, clever yet funny, naughty yet lovable? So here it might be a good idea to pick out irritating and mischievous and think about synonyms. Is caring a synonym for irritating and mischievous? No, it's not. Is cheeky a synonym for mischievous or irritating? Well, you might describe someone that's mischievous as cheeky. It's almost like being a little bit naughty but trying to be funny type thing, cheeky. Annoying. Is that the same as irritating? Yeah, I would say annoying and irritating are very similar. So this is what I'm thinking at the minute. I'm thinking clever. Is clever anything like mischievous or irritating? It's not, so it can't be that. Naughty. You might describe naughty as a bit like mischievous. Lovable. Is that the same as irritating? No. Okay. So we're going to have a look at this one. Well done if you got that. It was a good introduction into our vocabulary reading skill. It's another really, really important reading skill. I think up to 25% of our marks can come from vocabulary. But this is probably one of the reading skills that you'll be using and will be the most useful to you throughout your learning, because you're picking up vocabulary, you're learning how to use it, and then you can use it. Again, there might be some things that you've read here that you put in your Magpie book. Feel free.